What's up, everybody? Welcome to Time Crunch. I'm joined today by Pete Ternes. Pete is a former attorney, but is the co-founder of Middlebrow, which is a brewing project that started here in Chicago in 2011, but more recently in 2019, they opened the Middlebrow Bungalow, which is where we're sitting today. You see the beautiful photos in the background. Middlebrow, for a long time before opening the bungalow, did a lot of contract brewing around Chicago, but now they have their own space here where they're known for being much different than, I'd say, your typical brew pub. They have a bakery here and are known for their breads and pizzas, pastries. Open up early in the morning where you can have coffee and bring the family under normal circumstances. But Middlebrow's known for many different things, including what I would say is like going a little bit against the grain with styles, but putting a modern approach to a lot of styles that you don't see quite as often on the shelves here in Chicago. But even more notably than that, since they started putting out commercial beers, they've always been attaching a social cause to each beer they put out. And we've seen much more recently cause-based beers with Sierra Nevada putting out their Resilience. Much more recently, Other Half, the Altogether beer that was for to benefit the hospitality businesses across the country, and more recently, Black is Beautiful, which was started by Weathered Souls Brewery in San Antonio, Texas. But Pete, you've been doing this for really since the beginning, so I wondered if you could kind of kick us off with how you got the inspiration for bringing social causes to your individual beers.
Yeah, I guess I almost I shouldn't say I hate to say this, but it isn't the most romantic story. Since it was 2011. Frankly, Tom's and Warby Parker were ascendant, and everyone was wearing Tom's and buying Warby Parker, or just had started buying Warby Parker glasses. And both of those companies, Tom's is well known for giving a pair of shoes away for every pair of shoes it sells, and Warby Parker did something similar with glasses at the beginning. I don't know if they've stuck to it, but that was sort of where my head was. And my old friend for, I guess, at the time, almost 25 years, Nick Barica, shot me an email and basically said, "Hey, let's start a brewery and give half our profits back to some important cause," and we kind of went through the list of what was the right thing to do. We couldn't really give one beer for every beer we made because it's more pleasurable than it is helpful. So we that's where the half the profits sort of idea came in, we immediately thought about our city and our community, and what seemed to be its main scourge, and that was gun violence, and still may be gun violence, and so we launched our first beer. By the time it was sort of all said and done and out, and we were making our donation, it was early 2014, but that beer was designated, or rather the profits from that beer, the donation from that beer was designated for Cure Violence, also known as Ceasefire. They do a lot of work combating gang violence in this city, and frankly, they were started in this city, but the mayor and the state don't particularly, I think, agree with their methods, and so they don't get a lot of funding here. But they've been active all over the world, in Brazil and LA and New York, and anyway, so we made a small donation to them, and we've been donating money to them ever since, and then kind of we spent a long time donating a lot of our profits to almost all of our profits to a lot of different organizations around the city in the last 8 years or so.
Awesome. Well, that's amazing what you've been doing. So when you kind of opened up your dream here, the bungalow, how did you kind of shift the way you attach these causes, being a restaurant, a bakery? What were some of the changes you made versus how you did things before you had this place?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. As a sort of dumb dreamer early on in 2010, 2011, when we were putting this all together, 2012, right? We just scratched out numbers on the back of an envelope at one point and thought, we'll be able to donate a decent amount of money, $500 to $1,000 per batch, maybe even more than that sometimes. And of course, we were just dumb dreamers. Didn't really understand the model that much. Didn't understand all the costs that go into it. Didn't understand all sorts of things. We're still learning. But like back then, we especially needed to learn. And when our first beer came out, and the profit margin was okay, but the absolute amount of money was not that high, we were kind of shocked and thought, okay, this is going to, in order to make a real difference, we're going to need to grow this thing. And along the way, we took some money out of our own pockets because we were embarrassed about how small our profit was on the X beer or Y beer or whatever. And kind of patched together, I guess maybe a little over $25,000 by the time having donated that by the time we opened here. That said, toward the end of that run, this is 2017 or 2018, I guess, we started feeling a little bit detached and alienated from these groups that we were working with. We were friendly with them, they would support us, we would make donations, we would go to their events, but it was very transactional, and it was harder to sort of understand where our money was going and whether it was even helpful to people, and it may have been really helpful to people, but it was just kind of harder to grasp that. And so we started thinking about whether there were ways to be more active and to do things rather than just donating money, and if we could be more impactful by doing things than by donating money. And that kind of coincided with our opening this place, where we thought, here we can do a few things efficiently. If we're a brewery and a restaurant and a bakery and all these things, we're making so much and we're serving people, we can make things efficiently and we can serve people efficiently. And so are there ways that we can take the same amount of money that we otherwise would have donated and put it back into programs that have an even bigger impact? And what we came up with were two things. One, a CPS free breakfast program, and the other is a work training program. The CPS free breakfast program, the idea there was that we would make just tons and tons of food. We make food really efficiently, right? We get it for cheaper than other people do, right? Than individuals would, and we can make a lot of it at once because we have a lot of big equipment, and we have people who are skilled at doing that quickly. And we thought, well, we can feed 100 kids for like $35. I mean, do it every single week, and it would be great. And frankly, it didn't work. So this again goes back to the dumb dreamer point. It didn't quite work out that way because it was hard to get people to come in.
Yeah. That was going to be my question. How do you match yourself up with and get the word out?
Exactly. Kids in CPS, CPS students aren't following Middlebrow Beer on Instagram, right. And that's like our main way to talk to the world. And so we tried all these things. We went to the park districts, we went to administration, the administrations at a ton of different schools, and we talked to social workers that handle regions of the city, and each one of those avenues proved sort of mildly successful once, right? But that after that one time, it kind of, the excitement around it or the attention paid to it sort of dwindled, and so we did it a few times, and we just saw the attendance drop. Well, it grew a little bit at the beginning, and then it started dropping, and then we stopped and thought, okay, we need to rethink this. Maybe we need to go to where they're at. At the same time, we were working in parallel on launching and then growing our work training program. And we got it off the ground. We had a social worker on site here, and a couple of apprentices who were in the program. And there were definitely some successes in the early run, but there was a lot of failures too, I'll say, and we learned a ton about it. And after that, for the first year of having tried both of those things and having them not gone the way that we had hoped they would go, we had a ton of energy to start this new year, 2020, with a bang with respect to both things. We knew where we went wrong. We knew there were probably other things that we didn't, other problems that we had or flaws in the program that we didn't know about yet, but we knew especially a few areas where we could have improved things, and we were ready to do it. We were just about to hire our next crop of apprentices. We had finished interviews right before COVID hit, and we were thinking about food donation as well, and actually meeting, like I said, going to where the students were. So we were talking to school, the principal at a school just down the street here, Yates Elementary School, and they were gung-ho about it. And we were going to get these programs launched again in the spring, and then COVID hit. So that brings us, I guess, to this new era where time seems to stretch on forever, but also seems never to move.
Yeah. So once the virus hit, obviously everybody's businesses are kind of changed for the indefinite future. I know that you've got a lot of new opportunities in place to kind of create sales and still kind of connect with your customers. Do you want to kind of run through those?
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of different things now that we're, now that we're trying to we're forced to figure out a new way to survive in this era. But the thing that we're most excited about, and I think isn't necessarily an innovation by us, but I think we tweaked it slightly to our benefit, and that is a subscription service.
And you call it community-supported fermentation?
Community-supported fermentation, CSF. And so obviously that's a play on CSAs, and farmers are the innovators there. And the way a CSA works is you sign up to support a farm for a season, and they give you what they get, what they grow, and you get a box, every week, and it's the farmer sort of fills it with things.
And these are common at farmers markets where people sign up and then they can go pick it up there sometimes.
Right, and go pick it up there. Often, a lot of breweries across the countries will serve as host or pickup sites for CSAs. We do that here too. But when COVID hit, we launched this right away, and we got just kind of crushed with people who were excited about it. And I think that was a time when people were like, how are we going to have fun with food and with beer and with experiences in restaurants, right? When they're shutting down, and we just had a bunch of people sign up. So many people that we had to shut it down immediately and actually refund all the people's money, because we didn't have the labor here to make it work. And so we kind of survived for a couple months, idled, did what we could do with just a handful of people on site, and then decided last month to start that back up again. And the tweak we made to it this time, and just to, I guess, back up a little bit, what the CSF is, the F stands for fermentation, of course, and that means it's a beer subscription, but also a bread subscription, and initially was also a pizza subscription. And our pizza is made with, the crust is sourdough, and so it's all sort of all represents fun fermentation in a sense. We haven't relaunched the pizza subscription because, again, that would require more labor than we're comfortable bringing back yet. But the CSF currently does include, the option to pick up one beer per week or one loaf of bread per week or both. But our tweak on it, and this is sort of our way of fixing our CPS free breakfast idea, temporarily at least, is that if you buy a subscription, there's an extra $5 on every single subscription that goes toward a weekly loaf for a family in the city. And so for every bread subscription, for every beer subscription, we get an extra $5, and the extra $5 doesn't quite cover the entire cost of making the loaf and getting it to a family, but it comes close. In some weeks it may, and other weeks it doesn't. But it's more of a way to help us sort of serve the broader community here, people who need to eat, and people who deserve just as much as everyone in our neighborhood here to eat good, thoughtful, well-made, properly sourced, locally sourced bread. And
then for people who maybe can't get here every week or just wouldn't be able to keep up themselves, they can still just do a smaller program that's where they're using you to get the bread to the people, right?
That's right.
A bread subscription.
Yeah, that's been great for two reasons. One, there are tons of people who just say, "Hey, I travel for work," or even still somehow, believe it or not. But other people who just can't just live alone and can't finish a loaf of our bread. I mean, it's hearty, delicious bread, but it's there's a bunch of it, in a loaf, and so to get through it in a week when you're, for some people, just depending on your eating habits, just isn't really feasible. And the same goes for our beer. We give people a 4-pack a week, and some people just don't drink that much beer, and it would just balloon, and they'd have so much beer from us, and so. But a lot of those people still want to support the neighborhood or support us in our mission, and so we've created another product sort of in the subscription bucket and it's just a community bread subscription. It's sliding scale, so you pay what you want. It's anything from $1 to like $100 a week. I don't think we have any $100 a week subscribers yet, but you know, you can do $1, you can do the $5 that we'd otherwise charge you can do $10, whatever you want, right? And that goes toward helping us feed a family, you know, or at least give a family a loaf every week. And what we've also done with that piece of the subscription bucket, that item in the subscription bucket, is there was a lot of people who want to get on who are on the waiting list, who want to get sort of involved with the either the beer CSF or the bread CSF. The bread CSF is sold out at the moment because we have a limited capacity, limited oven capacity, limited space capacity, limited human capacity, especially in the COVID era. And so we're growing it very slowly. Right now we have over 100 subscribers to the bread program, but that's where we capped it, and maybe next month we can expand that a little bit. The first people who will get an opportunity to join the bread CSF when we reopen it, as we tend to, will be people who are in the community loaf program. So that's helped us too. Some people are like, yeah, I'll throw $5 a week at this thing. If in 2 months that means I might get I'll get a chance to actually be part of the CSF program. CSF
I was one of those people.
Yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate that.
No problem. Well, so how have you figured out connecting your bread with the people who need it?
It's a great question. That was the hardest part, actually. Yeah. That's why that's why the CPS program failed so badly, as I said, because people who are hungry aren't keeping up with local craft breweries Instagram. They're looking for food,
right?
And other basic needs. And back when we were kind of muddling through the CPS free breakfast program, we met and were connected with tons of people who work in the sort of social systems in the city, and they were all overworked and taxed and could barely keep up with. There's just so much to do, right? So many people to help, and food insecurity is a really big problem. But there are other problems that they all were working on at the same time. Drug addiction, mental health issues, gun violence, education, just really serious stuff and important stuff. And so there wasn't, I think, as much the infrastructure that is necessary to get bread from a place like this out into the world, into one single family's home anywhere in the city. It existed, but it wasn't sort of. There was all these breaking points, in the network. And I think COVID. This is a theory, but I think what happened with COVID is that people. First of all, a lot of people were working from home, and a lot of people had a little more time, and a lot of people were volunteering, and a lot of people were doing other things to sort of improve the social structures in this city. And also, they just needed to be necessarily. We had to find a way to get the city. That is, when I say we, I mean everyone in the city had to think about how do we feed the hungriest among us, because kids weren't going to school anymore, or the elderly who live in a home maybe weren't getting served by a particular vendor as much because the vendor's employees were homesick or whatever. And so all those breaking points in the network seemed to shut, and then suddenly there was this clear connection. It's like if I call someone up now, if I know we'll have 100 loaves on a particular day, I know exactly the 3. I have 15 different organizations that I call on a fairly regular basis, and I know the 3 who can actually utilize 100 loaves really quickly. But if we have 20 or even 10 one day, I know the other organizations that can just take 10 and get them really quickly and fresh into a family's home. And it probably existed before, but we were disconnected from it. And there may have been several breaking points along that network, and now it's really cool to see that infrastructure booming, and it's just so easy to get our bread into people's hands now.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been good. Thanks. We're excited about it. Yeah.
So obviously to be able to do something like this, you have to also take care of the business side.
Yeah.
And the subscription. You said you're full right now.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about is this just seems to me like a genius way that I could see. I've not, we know that with rare beer, there's clubs and people, prepay for the year, and they're often more motivated by getting something they couldn't otherwise get.
Yeah.
This is a little different. This is kind of more supporting your neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of your customers live in the vicinity
Yeah.
of the restaurant. So they're doing this just as much to support the place where they like to come hang out
Yeah.
and grab their beer from. It's less about a rare beer, it's more about kind of both supporting the restaurant at the same time as they are able to kind of jointly share in your mission of
Yeah.
getting the bread out to the people who really need it. I'm curious, do you see this subscription model? Like, this is, I follow like the tech world and all that, and read all the articles on that, and that's like all anybody wants to invest in is subscription models. We know like between like streaming services, Netflix, and Amazon, all that, it's all like there's this whole world outside of beer that hasn't really hit beer yet, that I think you're innovating around in a new way to kind of drive loyalty for your customers. And I was just wondering how this has helped you. I got to imagine it helps, predict, with predicting how much you're going to sell, and there's probably other benefits too, like a little more predictable cash flow.
Yeah, no doubt. It's the predictability thing is huge. Knowing that we're at the very least this coming week or the next month, right? We're going to make at least this much money, and the way we set the subscription plan up is your subscription doesn't start for 2 to 3 weeks. You don't start picking things up for 2 to 3 weeks from the point at which you buy it, and that's because production for bread takes a longer time to amp up, and there are a little bit more moving pieces there, and we can't have someone just staring at the subscription, emails all day. Right. We need to sort of focus on it once a week, and at that point we sort of digest all the new subscriptions and then get them into the following week's production schedule. But what that means is, if you cancel it, we'll continue giving you, you've paid for X amount, and you have credits with us, but that money is effectively, it's money we already have for bread we're going to sell in the future, and there's a little bit of a predictability there. At least we can't be, we get a little bit of money up front, I guess is the way to put it. Another way to design this, and what we'll probably do for future iterations of the bread subscription and the beer subscription, is to do it like every 3 months, right? You just pay for 3 months of a subscription, and it renews every 3 months if you want it to. There's a little bit of more predictability there. So that's good, I think, and that's helped us in terms of stability, and it fits that subscription. Like, the benefits of a subscription model are also, frankly, that that people in a lot of ways will set it and forget it. It's our responsibility to make sure that they're happy every week and they get something either practical or fun every week, something that they're excited to try. Maybe they don't love it, but it was really weird and interesting and different. It taught them something. And then something, hopefully the very next week, is super practical, and it's like they're going to make sandwiches out of it, or it's a lager they're going to drink every day, one of them every day after work. It doesn't have to be the wildest beer they've ever had. And that I think is where the sort of the light innovation is in terms of the products that are part of our subscription model. It's not the rarest stuff that we have. The rare stuff that we have will go out to subscribers, and they'll get the chance to drink it first. And same goes for any new beer that we make. Provided the scheduling can be worked out, they'll be the first ones that get a crack at any new beer that we package, and that helps people have fun with this too. But then some weeks they'll just get Bungalow or Lager, and like that's there's something I like about that, because it does require truly loyal people who like us, who know that this is a weird time and who want to support us more generally, and who can't come here and hang out, so they get to bring the experience sort of home with them in a small way.
Follow
and then they also want to,
your beer.
Exactly. And then they also want to help the community and the broader city, and they can do it all with one quick, one credit card transaction a week.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I really think, like you said, I mean, it's not that you invented this concept, but
right.
I really do think you've, at least locally here, brought it to the beer scene, and I could easily see this catching on, and people doing their own kind of spins on it. But I think it's smart.
Yeah.
But I wanted to highlight, how you've been working on these social causes since the beginning, since before it's become more normal now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've been doing this from day one is awesome.
Well, thanks.
And what you're doing now with these bread subscriptions, and I was very curious about how I had to imagine it was hard to connect the bread to the right people, and how you've gone about that and realized it didn't work out the way you thought the first time, but kind of stayed with it and kind of regrouped and went back at it again. And That's awesome. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks
Pete.
so much. Yeah.
You want to jump into the lightning round now?
Sure. I'm scared about this. Yeah.
So the clock will start when I finish the first question.
Okay.
What style of beer are you most likely to pour yourself at the end of a day here at the bungalow?
Kolsch.
Name someone or something that was crucial to learning how to run your first restaurant.
Greg at Corridor.
What pizza topping have you found to be the most divisive?
Anchovies.
What non-middlebrow beer frequents your refrigerator the most?
Oh man. It would be Off Color or Cruz Blanca, but I guess right now it's Cruz Blanca's. God, I don't remember the name of it. It's Cruz Blanca Mexican style lager.
Cool. That might be what it's called.
Yeah.
Name a subscription model business that you subscribe to.
Oh God, I should. Let's see. I'll say it just because it's going to force me to stop. Amazon.
What beer style have you never made commercially but would like to someday?
Lambic.
What's your favorite middlebrow beer? What's your favorite beer Middlebrow has ever put forth?
Who's that girl?
Aside from Middlebrow, whose pizza would you be most likely to order?
Anywhere in the city?
In the city. Yeah.
God, I guess Dante's.
What beer style is Chicago still lacking in?
Great question. I think, I'll say Saisons.
What U.S. craft beer bar would you geek out most at having Middlebrow poured at?
God, what's that one with the half door? I can't even think of it anymore. Or Toronado, where I used to hang out all the time.
What's an odd job at the bungalow that most wouldn't realize you do?
Expo food, or clean the toilets, I guess. I don't know.
What city do you think a second bungalow would vibe best in?
Nashville.
We're out of time. I thought you were going to say San Francisco.
Oh, I was going to say.
That's where I would want it. Just because I go there sometimes.
Yeah.
And I get a San Francisco vibe.
Yeah, no. I think it would fit. But I think there's a lot like this there. I think a place like some Western city. I was going to say Saugatuck. I think like a Southwest Michigan, but not quite Southwest Michigan. Something when you get a little closer to Traverse. I think this kind of thing would do well there. But I could be dead wrong. Madison. I probably should have said Madison.
It was more of a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Not that I think you're just like dying to open a restaurant.
I mean,
cool. Awesome.
Not that seriously, but like sort of
Got a
about
daydream,
like
right?
where does the next 5 or 10 years look?
No problem. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Yeah.
I said it. I wrote this on Twitter last night. I didn't tell people who I was doing it with, but I said the next guest is Chicago's unsung hero in the craft beer scene.
Oh, awesome! So, thanks so much. That's so nice
for
of you.
everything you and your co-founders and your team here do. Thank you. It's amazing, and
thanks so much.
You're a role model.
That's a really cool thing to say, and I really appreciate that. That's the exact kind of thing that I like to be. If we are anything, you know.